D.B. Cooper, the hijacker who vanished forever. On November 24, 1971, a man walked into an airport and boarded a plane. By the end of the night, he would become the most famous unsolved criminal in American history. His name was D.B. Cooper, or at least that's what the world came to call him. More than 50 years later, nobody knows who he really was, where he came from, or what happened to him after he disappeared into the darkness. This is the incredible mystery of D.B. Cooper. It was the day before Thanksgiving. A middle-aged man wearing a dark suit, white shirt, black tie, and sunglasses purchased a one-way ticket from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington. He identified himself as Dan Cooper. Nothing about him seemed unusual. He calmly boarded Northwest Orient Flight 305 along with dozens of other passengers. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a note to a flight attendant. At first, she thought he was giving her his phone number. She placed the note in her purse without reading it. Cooper leaned toward her and quietly said, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." The flight attendant opened the note. Her heart immediately began racing. The note claimed that Cooper had a bomb inside his briefcase. When she sat beside him, Cooper opened the case just enough for her to see what appeared to be red sticks connected by wires. He then made a shocking demand. He wanted $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle. If his demands were not met, he threatened to blow up the plane. The pilots immediately informed authorities. The FBI began preparing for what would become one of the strangest hijackings in history. As the aircraft circled above Seattle, officials gathered the ransom money and parachutes. Passengers had no idea what was happening. Most believed there was simply a delay. When the plane landed in Seattle, Cooper's demands were met. The money was delivered. The parachutes were delivered. And then something unexpected happened. Cooper released all of the passengers. He allowed them to leave safely. Only a few crew members remained on board. Now the real mystery was about to begin. Cooper instructed the pilots to fly toward Mexico. He gave very specific instructions. The plane had to fly low, it had to fly slowly, and the rear staircase had to remain operational. As the aircraft crossed the dark skies of the Pacific Northwest, Cooper sat calmly in the back of the plane. Around 8 p.m., a warning light suddenly appeared in the cockpit. The pilots knew something had happened. The aircraft experienced a sudden change in pressure, but nobody could see Cooper. Nobody knew what he was doing. Minutes later, they had their answer. D.B. Cooper had jumped out of the plane, into the darkness, into a storm, with $200,000 strapped to his body. He was never seen again. The FBI launched one of the largest investigations in its history. Agents searched forests, rivers, mountains, and remote wilderness areas. They interviewed hundreds of suspects. Thousands of tips poured in. Yet no trace of Cooper was found. Years passed, then decades. The mystery only grew larger. Many investigators believed Cooper could not have survived the jump. The weather was terrible. The terrain below was dangerous, and he had jumped at night. But others disagreed. Some experts believed Cooper was highly trained. Perhaps he had military experience. Perhaps he had planned every detail. If so, he may have escaped successfully. Then came a surprising discovery. In 1980, a young boy found several bundles of cash buried along the Columbia River. The serial numbers matched the ransom money from the hijacking. It was the first major physical evidence ever found. But instead of solving the mystery, it created even more questions. How did the money get there? Why was only a small portion recovered? Where was the rest? Nobody knew. Over the years, dozens of suspects emerged. Former soldiers, skydivers, criminals, adventure seekers. Each seemed promising, yet none could be conclusively identified as Cooper. In 2016, after decades of investigation, the FBI officially closed the case. The mystery remains unsolved. To this day, D.B. Cooper is the only person in American history to successfully hijack a commercial airplane and disappear without being caught. Did he survive the jump? Did he die in the wilderness? Was he a trained professional? Or was he simply the luckiest criminal who ever lived? Nobody knows, and perhaps that's exactly why the legend of D.B. Cooper continues to fascinate millions of people around the world. More than 50 years later, his true identity remains hidden in the shadows. One man, one plane, one jump into the darkness, and one mystery that may never be solved.